Cowboy legend Troy Aikman was asked about the idea of maybe someday joining the Cowboys front office. And his answer was interesting. This is part of what he said, quote, "I doubt it. I mean, I think it's a real long shot. I believe that it's unlikely that Jerry will ever bring somebody in that can help this football team in that regard, just because he's been real stubborn and steadfast in that he's the one in charge. I think in a lot of ways, until that changes, this team's going to have some problems." Holy smoke, Troy Aikman said that.
Yeah, he set that thing ablaze. So hey, I don't understand the criticism of Jerry Jones, the GM. Like, I know that we talk about some organizations across sports, from Dolan to Snyder to organizations where the owner holds them back. I don't think that's true here in Dallas. It seems like they've had a pretty strong roster. It seems very clear that at least as far as a GM in the past 5 to 6 years, Jerry Jones
right, but you got to
understand,
too, it's the last 25 years, right? It's since 1995. It's only 9 playoff appearances. It's having a run where you didn't have a winning season from 2010 to 2013. And when you look at the way the NFL is set up, those GMs don't last. Right. Those coaches don't last. And it's good to have consistency, right? It's good to say, you know what? We know who our GM is. We know the type of decisions he makes. But when it's consistently mediocre, that's the problem. And no other GM would last under another owner. So Jerry Jones, the owner, should fire Jerry Jones, the GM.
Let me also spin that a different direction for you, Nick, because the job of the general manager is not only to acquire the players, but the coach. And there's a lot of people who perceive Jason Garrett being the coach there this long only because he's willing to deal with Jerry Jones in ways that, as we're discussing, Urban Meyer may not. And that may be a problem unto itself.
I mean, that's why it's interesting that we keep bringing up these big fish. Like, who thinks that that's going to work? I don't think, even if they're great coaches, even if Urban Meyer is able to change his coaching style in a way that is more consistent with NFL players, I don't think that it will work well with Jerry Jones.
The biggest fish ever was a tuna, right? And that's Bill Parcells, and he was there for a short time. It didn't work. Dan Graziano, can it work?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about this on the show a lot. This is a situation where, you know, after games, Jerry Jones goes out and talks to the media, and the head coach waits to do his news conference. Like that, those kinds of things. That sounds silly to people watching, but I mean, that most of the time that's not how it works. And I think, you know, that's an example of how it has to operate there. And if you want control, if you want to be the out front guy, the big personality, then that's probably not the coaching job.
People start to change when they're faced with their football mortality. We train a different way. We eat a different way. Jerry Jones has to be looking at his literal mortality. And he needs to understand, if he wants to win, not in his coaching GM tenure, in his lifetime, if he wants another Super Bowl, he needs to be different. And if he can make that change, then I'm sure people would love to coach the Dallas Cowboys.
I think he thinks this team should have done it. I mean, he signed Ezekiel Elliott. I think he thinks he should. I think he thinks he's a coach away right now.
There are coaches that are going to want to have more say in personnel than the Cowboys coach has. There are coaches that are going to want to be more of the out front face of the organization guy than the Cowboys coach necessarily must be. You have to know. Mike Shanahan told me years and years ago, when he considers a job, he has 2 questions. Who's the quarterback? Who's the owner? And if you don't answer those questions to your satisfaction, you're not going to want the job. There are plenty of people who would love to go work for Jerry Jones, but there are also probably plenty of people who, if I have options, that might want to go somewhere else.
Mike Shanahan coach the Redskins?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Mike Shanahan. So he didn't care what the answer to those questions were. He just thought to himself,
who's the owner and how much is he offering? That was the 3rd question.
Oh, okay.
He must have thought about that.
Mike Shanahan
fully guaranteed.
He got burned out in Oakland by the ownership situation, so I guess that's why he learned that. But still, I think all that matters, and you're right, they will be wary, but I would work these things into my contract. If I'm a big coach like Jerry Jones, you can't speak to the media. You speak to the media, I get a boost.
Well, see, I don't think. Well, you can't. You can't coach there for that.
You can't have 2 voices. Like the coaches use the media to communicate with their players in many ways to send them a message. You can't have 2 voices.
That's
too hard.
That's the key point. Jerry owns a team. Like that's the condition.
If that's the case, then keep Jason Garrett.
We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.